All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our monthly or semi-monthly Nebula presentation. We've always got new VARs joining us. So I put this together to sort of give you an overview of what Nebula is and how it can benefit you. Nebula is kind of the glue that connects all of our different product lines together. So I'll start going through that. We'll start with a little bit of background on Zyxel and our experience with the cloud. So for those of you that are new partners, and this is something that comes up a lot, you're presenting Zyxel products to one of your customers and they go, well, I've never heard of these guys. So a little background here to maybe help you sell Zyxel to them. Zyxel's been making computer networking equipment for over 30 years. We got our start all the way back in 1989. There are over 100 million Zyxel devices deployed out in the field, and we serve 150 different global markets, with Europe being our largest market by far. Much more common name in Europe than we are here in the United States, unfortunately. Now, Zyxel itself is part of the Zyxel group of companies. Some, but not all of them, are listed there on the screens. I am employed by Zyxel Networks. So Zyxel Networks is our division that targets the channel business. So that's going to be security appliances, switches, access points, that type of product. We also have a sister organization called Zyxel Communications, and they're primarily aimed at the ISP space, selling CPE product here in North America. And then Mitra Star is our manufacturing arm. They're the ones who make most of our products for us. So all of these companies are all sort of bound together under the Zyxel group. And it is a publicly traded company on the Taiwanese Stock Exchange. So we'll now start talking a little bit about Nebula. So we are not new to the cloud space. In fact, Nebula has been around now since 2016. We are the first full stack cloud networking solution aimed at SMB. So back when we got started back in 2016, most of the cloud solutions that were out there were only aimed at wireless access points. There were a few that did do sort of everything, hence the full stack, switches, firewalls, things like that. But those were primarily aimed at the enterprise space, with Cisco's Meraki being the primary one there. And basically what we did is we saw Meraki and other similar cloud solutions, thought this would be a great product for SMB. Unfortunately, the products that were out there were aimed at enterprise and were much too expensive for the SMB space. So we decided to jump in. So we're the first guys out there to make a full stack SMB targeted cloud management solution. And we've been improving it ever since. So we're coming up on what, 8 years now since the product launched, and we've been constantly improving it ever since. But what that tells you is we have a lot of experience with the cloud, maintaining the cloud, making sure everything runs smoothly. We've worked all the kinks out, unlike some of the other Johnny-come-latelys. So the main idea behind Nebula is to take all of this stuff that's popping up on the screen here that goes into setting up a new customer network. And our goal is to eliminate some of these items in those areas where we don't eliminate things, to make them take a lot less time and a lot less effort, saving you both money upfront, time of doing things, which also saves you money since you're not having to pay people to put as much effort into things. I won't go over each of these individual ones individually here. We'll just go ahead and skip through here some of the main core features of Nebula. So it's designed for hassle-free network management. All of the networks that you manage and deploy can always be found and accessed by going to nebula.zyxel.com. You don't need to worry about setting up VPNs or port forwards to be able to check and maintain each of your customers' networks. Nebula allows you to set up without unboxing. So basically, at any point, you can log into nebula.zyxel.com. You can set up a new customer and you can start setting up sites. Many of the site settings can be configured immediately. And for product-specific configurations, you do have to buy the hardware. But once you've received the hardware, you simply scan the QR code found on the outside of the box on most Nebula-compatible equipment, assign that device to your customer, and you can start configuring it from that point on. No need to take it out of the box. We've got a number of wizards and tools that help you configure your network and get it up and running in just a short period of time. And once you've done that, as soon as you plug in that Nebula hardware, it will reach out to the cloud, see you want to manage it in the cloud, put itself into cloud mode, and automatically download that configuration. So there's no configuration that needs to be done on the device itself. You do not need to put the device into cloud mode. You do not need to point it to the cloud. It will take care of that automatically for you. And to use Nebula, you just simply need to buy Nebula compatible Zyxel hardware. There's no additional hardware that needs to be purchased. There's no cloud keys. There's no CNA devices. There's no software that needs to be set up. There's no virtual machines that need to be run. The Nebula agent is built into the hardware itself, and it is smart enough to be able to basically reach out to the cloud and do everything on its own. And again, once you've done that, you have access to all of your customers and all of their networks anywhere you or your techs have access to a computer and an internet connection. So some of the cool features that you find in Nebula is we have built-in user management. So if you don't want to have to set up your own Radius server for user authentication, we do provide cloud-hosted authentication ourselves that you can use. So you can tie that together with WPA2 or WPA3 Enterprise. You can use it for guest access and user access to guest networks. You can use it for 802.1x authentication on your switches, etc. All of our access points have the ability to do captive portal themselves, as well as layer 2 isolation and VLANing. So if you need to set up a guest network, you do not need to configure your gateway. You can use whatever gateway you currently already have to be able to set that up and do it. And even if you're dealing with a customer's network where they've already got switches in place that don't support VLANs, our layer 2 isolation feature allows you to isolate those guest network users and prevent them from being able to access any local resources, even without VLAN or switches on your network. All configuration and firmware updates are done over the air through the cloud. So again, no need to go on site, no need to directly access any of the hardware that you've deployed. On the AP side of things, all of our Nebula APs support our smart mesh functionality, which allows you basically to expand your wireless network out to additional access points in places where maybe you couldn't run a wired backhaul for whatever reason. We also have the ability to set things up so if an access point loses its hardwired connection for whatever reason, it will automatically mesh on its own until that hardwire connection is restored. All of our business class APs support WPA2 and WPA3 Enterprise, as well as all of the current standards for fast roaming, 802.11r, K, and V. On the switch side of things, we give you a nice visual view of all of your switches and the ability to quickly see what's going on all of those ports. So based on color coding, you can see if a Ethernet cable is plugged into the port, what speed that connection is, as well as whether or not PoE power is being provided through that port. We give you the ability to configure multiple ports simultaneously. And we give you graphs showing real-time and historic port utilization. On the security side of things, we give you access to our 802.1x authentication. We have DHCP and guard and loop guard on our switches to make sure someone doesn't plug in their own DHCP server or to make sure you haven't accidentally created a loop on your switches. So to use Nebula, it is free. There is nothing else you need to buy. With Nebula, you can manage an unlimited number of customers of yours, an unlimited number of networks, and unlimited number of devices for free, and you get access to all of the core functionality of those products. We do have some optional licenses, primarily aimed at those of you running MSPs, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on in the presentation. But the core version of Nebula is free. So I want to talk a little bit about Nebula Flex. What is it? So when we launched Nebula, we initially copied the Meraki way of doing things. Well, so with Cisco Meraki, if you wanted cloud management, you have to buy Meraki hardware. If you wanted to traditionally manage your devices using, SSH, WebGUI, SNMP, you would have to buy Cisco's non-Meraki products. So we copied that for a while, and the feedback we got was that was kind of too confusing. You wanted to be able to standardize on one set of products, um, whether that particular deployment or customer was going to use the cloud or not. So we heard you. So all of the products we sell today are what we call Nebula Flex, meaning these devices can be used in your traditional standalone method of doing things, where you access the device directly with SSH or the web GUI that's built in on it to manage it, or you can manage it in the cloud. And so basically, these are two separate modes. By default, the device will be in standalone mode. If you want to convert it to cloud mode, all you do is you scan that QR code, assign the device to one of your customers' networks, and within a few minutes, the device will detect that you now want to manage that device in the cloud and will automatically reboot itself into cloud mode and download the configuration you have set in the cloud. If at any point you want to take it out of the cloud and manage it more traditionally, maybe you're swapping in new hardware at one customer and you're going to take the old hardware and move it to a different customer, you simply log into Nebula, remove the device from your inventory, and the device will automatically reboot into standalone mode. Now, a key thing here is the configurations are completely independent between the two modes. So keep that in mind. It is not going to port your settings from one mode to the other. You will need to reconfigure it if you're putting it back in standalone. And in cloud mode, it'll automatically download whatever configuration is sitting in the cloud for that type of device. So when it comes to licenses, we've got a couple licenses here that are Nebula specific. Base Pack is what we call the free version of Nebula. So in the Nebula interface, you will see it says you're using Base Pack. That's just telling you you're using the free version of Nebula. Pro Pack is our main license that we sell that unlocks a number of additional features, primarily aimed at diagnostic tools, more admin accounts, things like that. So that is a license that you buy. You need one license for every device on that particular customer's network. And there is a free 30-day trial you can activate at any time. So you can test this out before you devote any money towards it. And then we also added a while back the Plus Pack. So the Plus Pack was aimed more at sort of these lightweight cloud solutions from like Netgear and stuff like that, which are kind of limited. So the Plus Pack is a much cheaper license, and that's going to give you email notifications, a few extra admin accounts, some extra logs stored in the cloud, things like that. So roughly, I believe the Plus Pack is about $12 per device per year. Pro Pack's roughly $30 to $35 per device per year. And then we also have our MSP pack. So the MSP pack is a different type of license. This is a license for an admin account. So you buy this license, you assign it to an admin account, and that admin account gets access to some extra features. So generally, as the name implies, it's aimed primarily at those of you doing MSPs. And usually you will buy this for only one or two of your primary admin accounts, not for every admin that you have. So just to try to make this clear here, in Nebula, so you're the customer on this slide, you will have multiple customers that you are managing. And so we call those customers organizations, and each of those organizations can have multiple sites. So to upgrade from the free version of Nebula to Plus or Pro Pack, every device in a organization needs to have the license. So again, so that's your customer. So if you have a customer that wants to use it, or that you want to use it for, every device needs to have an active license. Once all of the devices have an active license, that organization will convert over to Plus or Pro Pack. If for some reason you're in Plus or Pro Pack and one of your devices, the license expires, we do give you a 15-day grace period to fix that before the system downgrades you back to the base version of Nebula. So when it comes here to our products, we have what we call Nebula Flex and Nebula Flex Pro. The primary difference being Nebula Flex Pro comes bundled with 1 year of Pro Pack. So when you're looking at our products, any of our NWA access points are Nebula Flex. Our W series access points are Nebula Flex Pro. In addition to the 1 year Pro Pack, the Pro models are also the models you use if you want to use a local area controller to manage those access points. On the switches, our 1915, 1920, and 1930 series are basically our 19 series. of switches. Those are all Nebula Flex. And then for Nebula Flex Pro, you're looking at the GS1350 series, the 2220 series, and the 3800s. And then when it comes to our security appliances, the SCR50AXE, the USG Lite, and all of our standard USG Flex gateways are all Nebula Flex. And then if you want Nebula Flex Pro, when you buy a USG Flex or ATP series, that comes bundled with UTM services. So the bundle packs that you'll see listed, that bundle pack, in addition to including those UTM or gold licenses, also include 1 year of Nebula Pro Pack with that device. So I'll go over briefly here some of the main differences between the different modes. If you Google this, just Nebula Pro, Nebula, Google Nebula Pro, Zyxel Nebula Pro on Google, it should take you to a version of this in PDF that you can look at and reference in the future, rather than trying to remember everything that I'm showing you today on this slide. So just to hit here, things that are common between all three modes: unlimited device management, unlimited numbers of customers that you can manage, plug and play, zero touch auto deployment of the hardware, firmware updates through the cloud, the ability to schedule firmware updates through the cloud, access to our mobile apps for iOS and Android, logs being stored in the cloud, access to all of the core functions of most of our products here are included with all of them, access to MAC filtering and 802.1x authentication, access to captive portal, available across all of these. Now, some of the differences here, when it comes to logs, the free version of Nebula, we only store 24 hours worth of logs in the cloud. Plus Pack gets you a week's worth of logs in the cloud. Pro Pack, we store a year's worth of logs in the cloud. Now, Nebula does also support syslog. So if you're using the free version of Nebula and you need more than 24 hours worth of logs, you can set up your own syslog server and point Nebula to that, and it'll automatically copy over the logs to your syslog server. Admin accounts. Now you'll notice it is per organization. So again, organizations in Nebula speak is your customers. So for each customer you set up in Nebula, the free version gives you 5 admin accounts that can access that customer. Plus Pack gives you 8. Pro Pack gives you an unlimited number of admin accounts. Access to that cloud authentication server or user server I was talking about before. Free version of Nebula gives you 50 entries. Plus Pack gives you 100 entries. Pro Pack an unlimited number of entries. And most features that use this can also use a standard 802.1x server if you want to host your own 802.1x server. Some of the features here that are only available in Plus and Pro Pack: advanced firmware scheduling. So the free version gives you firmware scheduling. Plus and Pro give you advanced. So it allows you to set up different firmware update schedules based on the type of device, as well as the ability to set up different firmware schedules for each individual device. The ability to generate reports automatically and email them out with your own branding on them is something that's part of Plus and Pro Pack. Our automatic network topology view, that also is a Plus or Pro Pack feature. So that automatically, and I think I've got a slide on it, it automatically maps out which devices are plugged in and connected to which other products. Email alerts, Plus and Pro Pack. Wi-Fi vouchers, Plus and Pro Pack. And then Pro Pack gives you access to a lot of other stuff here. Audit logs, so a year's worth of audit logs in the cloud. The ability to sync, clone, and template organizations. The ability to back up and restore switch configurations to the cloud. Our AI Wi-Fi health monitoring, where we can automatically change some settings for you based on what we see as far as what's going on in the cloud. Ability to do packet captures through the cloud to your USG Flex, and collaborative detection and response. So we'll go through some of these features here. Some of these are going to be free features. Some of these are going to be Pro Pack features. So the ability to automate and auto deploy. So ability to automatically synchronize certain settings across multiple customers. The ability to use templates. The ability to back up switches that we just talked about to the cloud and restore them from the cloud. the ability to clone existing sites and configurations, etc. Here is the automatic topology view. So we'll automatically mark out for you which products are plugged into which other products on the network to help you for troubleshooting. You can also expand and see what type of client devices are connected either wirelessly or wired to those devices. So a really nice tool to help you for troubleshooting network issues you may be having. Support for dynamic pre-shared key. So dynamic pre-shared key is a good alternative to using 8021X for authenticating your wireless users. So with dynamic pre-shared key, you have one SSID. Each user is given their own unique pre-shared key. When they connect to that SSID, the access point looks at the pre-shared key used to do authentication and is then able to assign that user to specific VLANs on the network based on the pre-shared key they used. And that way, when an employee leaves, you simply turn off their pre-shared key and they lose access to the corporate network, unlike a shared key when everyone's using the same key. As mentioned, when it comes to our wireless, we use AI and or machine learning, whichever your favorite term of the day is to describe it, to basically monitor your wireless networks, the quality of your client connections, and can automatically tweak certain settings to try to solve any issues that we automatically detect that your wireless users are experiencing. On the switch side of things, we give the ability here to automatically, uh, based on MAC address, be able to recognize devices that should be on a voice VLAN and automatically move those devices to a voice VLAN without you needing to manually configure each port that you're plugging devices into. The ability on our 1350 series switches to detect when a connected PoE device becomes non-responsive and automatically power cycle it to get it back online, as well as virtual and physical stacking of your switches in the cloud. Oops, skip that, it's the same thing. I'm going to skip through that one. So we'll talk a little bit here about some of the stuff going on the security side of things. So as mentioned before, ProPack unlocks the ability to do collaborative detection and response, basically allowing your security gateway to coordinate with your access point to deal with attacks not only coming in from the WAN side of your connection, but also from users coming onto the LAN side of your network. We also have an optional license you can purchase for certain models of access points called Connect and Protect, which allows you to deploy UTM-like features directly on the access point itself, irregardless of what sort of firewall or router that user has. So it's really popular when you're going into a customer, you want a little bit better security, but they've got a router that's provided by their ISP. It doesn't support UTM services, and for whatever reason, they don't want you to replace it. You can use the Connect and Protect license to add that UTM-like features directly onto the access point itself. We have a special tool for those of you using our USG Flex and our ATP security appliances called SecuReporter, which provides all sorts of in-depth reporting on what's going on through that security gateway. So that is something that is integrated into Nebula, and we make it really easy for you to jump back and forth between the Nebula interface into SecuReporter and back out. You have the ability to create customized reports that then get emailed to either yourself for monitoring or to your customer to show you're being proactive and helping their network and those licenses they're paying each year are protecting them. And we can brand those with your branding. And as mentioned earlier, we have the ability here to do synchronization between different sites or different organizations, cloning, things like that to make it simpler to set up new networks or to make changes that are going to affect all of your customers. On the security side of things here, we have our VPN orchestrator to do sort of auto VPN connections between multiple sites. We have scripts that can automatically configure the native VPN in Windows, iOS, and Mac OS. We have an optional license for what's called secure Wi-Fi, which turns one of our Wi-Fi access points into what's basically a remote VPN appliance. It is an access point, not a router, so it can be plugged into your end user's existing home router without worrying about double NAT issues. It broadcasts a specific SSID. When you connect to that SSID, it basically creates a VPN connection back to the corporate offices. Obviously, you don't want just anyone connecting to that SSID. So it uses 802.1x authentication to verify the user is authorized before giving them access to that VPN tunnel. And you can also add two-factor authentication on top of that, should you want to. So I want to deal with some of the questions we get when it comes to Nebula and how things are deployed. So Nebula is not software you run locally. It is something that only runs in the cloud. So we host it on Amazon Web Services. It is a distributed global network that we are running with different nodes all over the place to provide quality hosted cloud access. It's not something we're running in-house. And AWS is trusted by almost every major company out there to host their cloud solutions. Downtime is very, very rare. So one of the questions we get is, what goes from my customer's network into your cloud? And the short answer to that is basically only configuration changes and log information. Your customer's LAN traffic stays on their LAN. Your customer's WAN traffic goes directly out to the internet. It does not get piped through our cloud first. So because of that, you can use Nebula in HIPAA networks, PCI networks, GDRP compatible networks. All of those things can use Nebula. It is not going to be an issue for you. One of the nice things about being hosted in the Amazon cloud is you have unlimited scalability. So you don't have to buy new licenses or upgrade your network as you add more networks, more users, more devices. We automatically scale for you there. When it comes to communication between our devices and the cloud, we have not created our own in-house security protocols to do that. Obviously, that comes down to, security issues when you're running your own software or your own protocols. So we use an industry standard called netconf. You can Google it and find out how it works, but it's an industry standard secure way of being able to securely provide management traffic between our devices and the cloud and log information from our devices back to the cloud without worrying about security issues there for you. So just sort of to hit here on the key takeaways, if you take anything away from this, Nebula makes it easy for you to deploy networks, reduces the amount of time and effort that goes into it. It is efficient, so it's reducing time, it's making things simpler, gives you easy access to all of your customers' networks so you can take a proactive approach to monitoring their networks. And it's highly affordable compared to most of the other cloud solutions that are out there on the market. Basically, no one is offering you at a free level, the level that we're providing. In fact, our free version of Nebula here offers better feature sets than many of our paid competition. And our paid tiers are significantly cheaper than most of our competition offering that level of features. So if you want to play with Nebula at any point, you can go to nebula.zyxel.com to set up an account. We have a free live demo that you can click on that you can go to check out, as well as at any point you can start setting up your own networks to play with it. If you are a Zyxel partner, so you have joined our partner program, you can reach out to your salesperson to get a free 60-day demo kit that you can hook up in your lab to play around with. And with that, guys, that is the end of today's webinar. I just want to highlight here, we do have a YouTube channel. There are multiple Zyxel channels on YouTube because we're an international company. Each region's got their own. So for the US, it's called Zyxel America channel. Most of our webinars are recorded and uploaded there. In addition, our video case studies are uploaded there. We have best practices videos, we have commercials. So it's a really good thing to subscribe to and keep an eye on as new content comes out. We're just about ready to launch a new video case study. And then you can always connect to us on LinkedIn, where we are known as Zyxel US channel. And with that, that ends today's webinar. If you have any questions, the Zoom interface here has a question and answer section. Go ahead and send them in. I will stick around for just a couple minutes here in case somebody's typing something in. But otherwise, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you turning out. I hope you learned a little something. We do webinars most Thursdays and most Tuesdays. Tuesday webinars tend to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more detail oriented, where the Thursday webinars in general are more of a high level overview type of presentation. I do not see any questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. If you did have some questions, you can email me directly, or you can reach out to your salesperson, Andy, Jacob, or David, and they can forward those questions on to me. Thank you.